Celeb Savant is a career retrospective type interview focusing on singers, actors, and industry experts. Join Barrett Edelstein now as he dives into the entertainment world.
American singer and songwriter Johnny Manchild started at the ripe age of 8, where he began to hone his musical abilities in a cover band before joining his first original band, Refugee, at 10 years old. At 12, he began building a rudimentary home studio and teaching himself all the instruments needed to record his early attempts at songs. After high school, he joined the U.S. Army Band. Shortly after the completion of his basic training, he enrolled in the jazz performance program at the University of Central Oklahoma. Since 2016, Johnny has led an ever-evolving musical lineup, affectionately dubbed the Poor Bastards. They have released 5 albums, a multitude of singles, videos, and tours. In 2026, the latest offering, Side Effects, is released. Up next on Celeb Savant, we've got Johnny Manchild. Where in the world are you and how are you doing?
Thanks for having me. First off, I am in Oklahoma City right now. I'm doing pretty good.
Okay, so now let's rewind. First of all, how did you choose the stage name Johnny Manchild?
Growing up, my mom called me Manchild as I got older, and that's where it came from. Which I obviously I'm turning 31 this year, so we're gonna see how that how that goes.
Okay, so now let's rewind. At what age, whether as a child or teenager, did you think, okay, I want to be in this creative world, and how did that journey progress?
8. I was 8. I started playing when I was 5 or so. 8 was the first time I was in a cover band. My first original music band was at 10, and I think that was done by the time I was 12. And by then, I was already in it. I was in concert band and then jazz band later in high school. I'm in countless punk bands throughout high school, and I started recording engineering when around 12 or 13, and continued doing that. Eventually, I joined the Army and was in the band for the Army band and went to college for jazz performance. And while in that degree, I started this band. So it's just always been that way. It's just what I've done.
How long were you in the Army for?
I was in for 5 years. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Obviously, it's been a passion, it's been a determination, it's been something that you've been going after since you were a child. Were there any people in your life, whether family, friends, or teachers, who were like, rather get a safe job, rather get a job that will pay the bills? Was there any of that, or were they just 100% supportive?
Honestly, I don't really remember much of that. I think it was just kind of accepted that this is what I did. I mean, but yeah, by the time I was 13 or 14, I could play drums, bass, piano, and guitar, and so I was pretty in it. I don't remember ever being told not to do it. I think the Army was the most stable work I had for a while. And the other thing too is, like, while I was going to college and in the Army, and I had a recording studio that I was managing, and the band started to take off my first year after I graduated, and already kind of seemed like a thing that could actually be worth pursuing. So I don't think it was ever a choice that I had to make, or there was never anyone like pushing me towards something else.
Cool. I mean, that's amazing, because these days a lot of people in the world see the arts as like, that's a nice thing, but maybe look at something that will pay the bills, something like a lawyer or accountant or doctor. There's usual labels. Am I correct in my understanding? Were you in the Army at the same time that you were studying?
Yes.
I never knew that was an option. I thought you're in the Army and that's just it. I didn't realize, well, I mean, obviously different armies around the world, but I didn't realize it was like you could do both at the same time.
So I was in the Army Reserves. My original plan was to do my reserves contract and then go active and go to like the European bands and travel a bit. But no, in the reserves, basically, I left for about 6-ish months to do basic training in my AIT, and came back and did college. So basically, the way it worked was you drill once a month, and then you have your AT, which is like 2 weeks or so, once a year that you go out. And so it works great with college. But yeah, I never went active, never got that far.
I mean, obviously, you've had the path that you've had now. It may be a rhetorical question, but were there any parts at the time which you thought you would have gone active?
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean that was the original plan. I think my plan at one time, I wanted to get my degree. I started my college degree in classical or just percussion performance, which is a little more broad. And so I did like classical study for the first 2 years, and then I transitioned to a jazz degree later. But I know for a while, like I really wanted to potentially be a music librarian or part of a philharmonic. And then later I was like, okay, well, I could go active with the military and like get reps in, like save some money, get a nest egg, and maybe spend a few years on a cruise line, being the music director for a jazz band on that. And like that was the kind of thing that I pictured doing. So I mean, really looking back, I always wanted to travel and play music. So it was going to happen one way or another. But that was what I thought I was going to do for a while.
Johnny, you've mentioned that you taught yourself all these instruments as a teenager, as a child. You did engineering, you studied jazz. Obviously, you've got a passion and a focus and a determination to learn and be immersed in this world. Were there any aspects that you can remember when you started off in those specific areas that you found challenging, or did they all come naturally to you?
I've taught music for years before, during college, and a bit after, and children, especially like girls, for some reason their brains seem to latch on to stuff very easily. But either way, children at young ages seem to just really grasp concepts so much easier than adults. And so I think the reason why it felt natural is because I was so interested in it and my mind was really able to be sculpted. And so I was lucky that I started playing percussion at such a young age. And drum set, naturally, you have independence of four limbs, so you have this rhythmic understanding that I think is not always easy to train with other instruments. But I'll say the rest of it though, like guitar and bass and piano, I was extremely interested in it. But no, it was challenging. I mean, it was so much practice. But yeah, no, there was no part of it that was like automatic. I enjoyed it so much that it wasn't work, but it definitely took practice.
And are you playing all those instruments still now currently?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, in my band, I'll sing and play piano and play guitar, but I produce other people's records. I frequently play drums or guitar or bass or piano or synthesizers, arrange string parts or horn parts, whatever they need. I get good practice and fun doing other people's music, which I think is honestly so important to refrain from a feedback loop creatively. I love working with other people on their stuff and having a chance to play these other instruments that even in my band, I would bring on people better than me if I can help it. But yeah, no, I still play everything. I enjoy it.
Now, do you enjoy all those instruments equally, or is there one that you slightly enjoy better than the rest?
Keys for me has become something that I love. And I can expand on that. I mean, piano as an instrument itself is really great, but once you're a keys player, now you have access to synthesizers and electric pianos, and there's this tonal thing that is so broad. Not to mention playing the piano and having that harmonic understanding. The entire orchestra is in front of you. You've got access to everything. And as far as like arrangement and writing, having a good understanding of that is so helpful. And music theory as well. I tell people like if you're going to be learning music theory and having an understanding of it, it really helps to be able to see and hear the piano in your head because it simplifies everything from your intervals to your just everything. For me, piano is what I think about the most. If I'm thinking about a piece of music or I'm hearing something, I'm thinking about it in terms of the piano. It's become my natural default.
I'm not sure if you are aware of NLP. So NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. So this is the
Oh,
way people process information. Part of NLP is a subsection called processing skills. And there are three of them. For the listener, each of us has a dominant, a secondary, and a tertiary. It's kicked in at a very young age as a child. Dominant means we'll be in it most of the day. Secondary, maybe a couple of hours. Tertiary, if at all. Now, there are three of them. There's visual people process information through pictures, through seeing things, through that aspect. Auditory people, it's about the words, the sentences, and understanding the audio elements. Kinesthetic people, it's about the feeling, the emotion, and the energy of the information. Now, with you focusing specifically on music, not other areas of your life, when you hear a song, are you seeing the picture? Is it about the feeling or is it about the lyrics?
I hate to answer this way. If I'm being honest, it's all three.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I That
No.
seems like a bullshit answer, but it's not. There are three different things that happen. And I think that is because I am a composer and a performer and a recording engineer. And so I think there are different hats that you wear and different approaches to it. So if I'm hearing something and I'm thinking of it as a musician, then my auditory thing is the main thing. But then diving deeper, I feel as a producer or even an engineer, like I'm trying to think of like what does the sonic thing feel like? And I don't feel it as much as I see it. For me, like mixes and production in the musical landscape of things tends to be cinematic. I don't know, take something like Fade Into You by like Mazzy Star or something really quiet and intimate. That's a close-up shot. That's something really, it's right here. But if you've got something that verbs out and becomes larger, you have this wide shot. And I think that music, naturally for me, I see what it's wanting to do in in a more cinematic way. And then obviously as a performer, I'm thinking about, I can visualize my hands playing for the part, and I'm trying to get it under my fingers. And so that's kind of a display of all three types, but they're each for different purposes.
Yes.
That's why I think music is so wonderful and
Yes.
everyone should learn it because it keeps your brain active.
You're very creative and technical in the creative space. So when you are listening to songs by other artists, is your brain able to relax and just enjoy the song for what it is, or is your creative technical brain unpacking each element?
I am able to just enjoy music. Now, it is when it's live that's problematic for me. Because music to me, I sometimes I'll think about it and try to break it down, but it's not so much in a neurotic, like in a way I can't help it. But when I'm seeing a live performance, I remember I saw Sammy Ray in San Diego, if you know them. They're excellent, but I saw them live, and I couldn't help but analyze everything going on, from, like, the way they were performing to the chemistry on stage and the music, and I'll admit, like, when I see live music, my brain automatically goes in the mode of, like, "Okay, what can I steal from this that will help me?" Like, I wanna figure out, like, "This is such a cool thing. How can I use that?" So I do get overly analytical with live performance. And every once in a while, something is so amazing that I do get lost in it. I don't like taking a lot of pictures when I'm doing things. I'm bad about it because I don't want the distraction. Every once in a while, I do get to enjoy a performance that's just so amazing that I can't even think about things that way. The Berlin Philharmonic is an example. Seeing that, I was not analyzing it. I was just trying to listen to it.
But now, when you're in that analytical phase in the live productions, does that frustrate you or it's just your process?
It's not generally frustrating. No, like it's not like a thing of occasionally it can be envious, I suppose, but more often than not, it is fascinating more than frustrating. I enjoy seeing something that like challenges my brain a bit because if there weren't anything, I'd get bored. And music is so vast. Looking backwards or looking forwards, you'll never learn all of it. There's always going to be somebody better than you at something or somebody doing something different, and that's cool. Like, that's the whole point.
Now, you creating music for yourself as part of your band, are you creating in the jazz genre as what you studied?
No, I don't think so. I would say it has influences. Jazz to me, it's not just about the arrangement. Like, you can have the arrangement of a jazz ensemble as far as your instrumentation, but jazz is generally heavily improvisation based. And while there is some improvisation in my live show and what I do, that's just not, it is inherently not jazz music. But there is jazz influence. More than jazz, I'd say there's Motown influence and things like that, because that's the music that I really like. I was listening to, I can't remember the name of the record, but it's the Nina Simone record with Sinner Man. I was listening to that recently, and like that to me is where I'm pulling from. Which obviously there are jazz roots in that music, but it's not jazz. It's like soul or Motown R&B type stuff. Like I really dig that. I would argue that if you're gonna say that there's jazz in the music, that's what it actually is.
Okay. How do you create a song?
It depends. Okay, today's an example. I do it different ways, but I don't know, not even I just sat down on the piano and decided to start playing, and today, luckily, something just came out. So I went to voice memos and I sang nonsense words with this melody I had over this chord progression. And by the end of like a minute and a half, I had a verse, a chorus, a bridge, and this little post-chorus thing. And later, I'll probably go back. I was singing these vowel shapes, sort of syllabic things, but not real words. I'll probably go back and figure out what it was that my brain was trying to say. So that's one way. And with piano, it does happen that quick. Other instruments, though, I get different results. If I'm writing a song, if I start on the bass, I tend to get something a little more rhythmic, where that's the focus. And it really depends. Different instruments bring about different approaches. Sometimes I'll have a lyric specifically stuck in my head, and maybe it'll be attached to a melody just as a fragment, and I can start from there. Rick Rubin says that one of the best things you can do if you're having trouble writing is just driving. Some autonomous action where you're almost on autopilot, and that is where your brain takes the walls down. And I do find that to be true. Whether I'm driving or on walks or doing something that is relatively autonomous, that's where you can sometimes just release stuff.
When you're creating or producing on your own projects compared to when you producing or collaborating with other artists, is it the same approach or do you have a different approach in those different situations?
Okay, so the approach is different because it's in service of somebody else now. And so my process isn't inherently going to work for everybody. Producing is sort of the same as teaching, as in every student is not going to have the same method of learning. Kind of what you're talking about with the neuro-linguistic programming type stuff. It depends. Everyone's going to have different strengths and weaknesses. Some people are trying to expand on the lyrics and make things almost, they're like consulting a thesaurus. Like they just don't feel happy with their expression of it linguistically, and then other people, they feel that their music is just too simple and they might want to expand upon that in harmony. And so it just depends on where are we falling short, what is it that we want to work on, and then also like what it really is the focus of the song. Is this a song that's meant to like make people move and be groovy? Is this something that focuses on the lyrics as like an expressive emotional thing? Like it depends on the person and on the experience that you're trying to convey. It's different every time. There's no formula to it at all.
And when you're writing songs for yourself, is it a sole writing process or do you collaborate with other writers?
Usually it's just me. Historically, like I'll have a voice memo or something like that. I'll go to my little studio setup, whatever it happens to be at the time. I'll do a demo. Lately, I've been writing horn parts vocally, which I found out apparently was something that Michael Jackson used to do, which makes so much sense to me. I found that singing out the horn parts I wanted, I found more interesting harmonic options, but also you inherently write parts that are physically possible because, like the horn players, you only have as much breath as you have. Because in the past, like 10 years ago, when I first started writing horn parts, I would write things that were impossible to play because I wasn't thinking about the breath. And so singing horn parts I find is awesome. Obviously different rules with strings, but yeah. So I'll demo things and I'll arrange all that, and then usually we'll have rehearsals with reading sessions with the sheet music before we do recording. But yeah, I like to write all the stuff myself. I will say I have to say this every time someone asks because this record, there's a song called Hum, parentheses Alex's song. It is the first song ever with this band that has had a co-write because Alex came to me with the guitar riff from the beginning of the song and I loved it so much that I was like, I will give you a cut if you let me use that. So yeah, that is the one instance of a co-write.
It's very interesting that you mentioned earlier that you have a sort of a speaking of the lyrics before you record it. And I find this interesting in the sense that singing a word is very different to the pronunciation of when you actually speak it. So when you
Mhm.
actually are talking it out, do you ever find yourself changing things compared to when you actually sing it because of the differences in the way they are done?
Oh yeah. I think I do it automatically when I know I'm singing. I've got these I definitely do change the way that words come out. And that's actually something, speaking of working with people on producing and stuff, that's one of the things that I work with a lot. Because sometimes people will sing the way they speak, but that's not exactly the best thing, especially in rock songs. I like my lyrics to have a percussive nature to them. Like the way the things are broken up, where the points and attacks are, you want your vocal to hit. And sometimes there are certain words that they roll out a little awkward. They don't flow. They don't feel good. I approach it like a drum set or a percussion rhythmic part, but you also have to think of if it doesn't feel good for you to say, it won't feel good for the listener to sing along to. And that is an important thing if you are in the business of making music for other people to hear. That's a consideration. So naturally, I do think I've got a way about words when it's to music that is different from how I speak. That is for sure.
I speak to a lot of people who aren't in the industry who are just fans of music. And oh, I like this song. I like that song. And I'm like, do you know what the song's about? A few songs come to mind straight off the bat. Chandelier by Sia. As we know, it's the song about her staying sober and being an alcoholic. Then there's that song by Foster the People, Pumped Up Kids. It's about a shooting in America. Then we've got that other song from the 90s, Crystal Waters, the Gypsy Woman, that La Da Dee, La Da Da dance song. And it's about a homeless person who's actually trying to get money to get a bed for that evening. And I explain to people, that's what these songs are about. So pulling it back to your creations and your lyrics, which are obviously very intentional and have what we've discussed about, when you release a song, are you intentional that you want the listener to process it and get it straight away? Or are you comfortable in allowing them to process it in their own time?
I have a very specific answer for this that I will stand by. Okay, so Radiohead is my favorite example because Tom York it writes lyrics that are very nebulous and intentionally vague, and they're sort of more like a word bath type thing, not necessarily directed at anything. And for that, there are so many times that I've heard a song and it is now permanently fixed in my mind as attached to a memory that I have. And it doesn't matter what that song is about anymore. Because to me, it's this. It's a visual thing that I can point back to. And so I've said it before with me, like if you do understand what it is that I meant and you relate to that and it means something, that's awesome. That's great. But it's not always going to be that way, and that's fine. When I'm writing songs, that is my process. That is going to be the way I want it to be, and that's my own self-expression for my own purposes. The moment that the song is released, it doesn't really belong to me anymore. And different people are going to experience it at different times. Honestly, you're just lucky if it means that much to even be tied to an important event or anything. It's more about the experience of the thing than it is about the proper analysis of it. I have no problem with it being about something else to somebody else.
Tell us about your latest release, your latest album. What was the inspiration about it, about the songs? Tell us everything.
Sure. Yeah. So Side Effects, there's not really a way around it. But January 2023, I was hospitalized during a pretty rough, like 2.5 week manic episode. I think it was like the third or fourth day of this like 7 or 8 day ordeal. I think the first song from the record that I remember like hearing in my head was Remember Me. And it wasn't like I was thinking about the album. It's just what was in my head. I was sitting in the at the common area with everybody. And I remember the thought of it was like I was 28. I didn't think that this was still able to be this bad. I thought I had gotten past it with the level of severity, and now I was sort of feeling like at the start again. And it was just not where I wanted to be. It's not how I wanted anybody to see me. And I just, yeah. And Remember Me was kind of the first thing that popped into my head. And as I was kind of getting songs together later on, the Medicine Dance was one of the next ones that I pulled together, which is largely about the process of getting the proper medication and also the getting the wrong medication and like the nightmare of figuring that out and that entire process. It sucks and it's hard and it's sometimes brutal and it's so discouraging that it's difficult to actually get to the point where you find the right thing. And it took years for me, with that stint in 2023 being the thing that finally led me to pursue to the end what was the proper thing. Now, there's some stuff about the state of the world and the attack on like LGBTQ communities and just the general state of the government and mental health and also just the self-doubt of being a creative person and musician. And then Give Me a Reason, for example, is about just the side effects to me, that song is, I think, where the album's like heart is as far as the theme. The side effects of surviving and deciding not to, commit suicide and deciding that you're going to get past that is now you've got to figure out what the purpose of you is anymore. And it's strange being alive at an age where you thought you weren't going to make it to. It's just life gets strange. And I think you adjust. It is something that you adjust to, but it is a process and it is a struggle. And also there's the very real thing of once you are medicated and stabilized, now you're 100% responsible for your actions. And that might sound silly, but the thing is, when you've got something to blame it on, it's a lot easier than when you don't. You've got to come correct. You got to figure yourself out. And so that's, yeah, side effects being the name of the record. That's sort of the whole vibe. It's a big explanation for it, but that's everything.
Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing. I really appreciate that. So you've got a tour coming up. Can you tell us how long it's on for and what do you love about performing live?
Sure. Our tour is to September 28th. And, honestly, kind of throwing it back to the thing about January 2023, that hospitalization happened right before the first tour I ever did. And I remember I was terrified because we had a 6-week run of house shows coming up. And I was like, am I going to be all right? Or I was in a really sort of iffy place. But that's sort of where I realized how much I love touring and performing, because what happened was I met the fans of the band all over the country, and there was a context given to what I was doing past the internet. And I've learned a lot about myself from meeting these people and talking to these people, and just the community of it is a huge thing. And the thing of performing not as a thing where you're being just looked at or watched or in a one-way thing, but something where you're interacting and it's like a two-way street of the energy of it. That's my favorite part. It's a very human thing, very communal thing. And honestly, it's a bit of a drug. It's very addictive. And it's like my favorite thing. It's hard to say. It's sort of on equal footing for me. A great moment in a show versus the moment in a recording studio where you've found the thing. They're different things, but they're equal hits of dopamine.
Okay, so I'm that guy that's right up in front. I'm dancing, I'm jamming. I'll take my cell phone out for maybe 1 or 2 videos, 1 or 2 photos. I put it away. You reference that connection between the audience. And I notice these days a lot of people around me are busy with their phones, filming, doing whatever they are with their phones. So from the person on the stage, potentially seeing a bunch of phones compared to faces, do you feel that takes away from that energy you were referencing, or it's just society in this moment?
Here's what I'll say. I've played shows to one person in the past, and I just, let them pick the set list. And the way that I've always gone about it is I'm going to have fun. And you know what? If no one's there, we're playing this set through a really cool sound system. It's going to be really awesome. And to me, the show, there's 2 different things accomplished there. If I'm being business about it, I got a lot of new footage being passed around socials, so let's spread the word. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but I'll look at the silver lining about it. And for everyone that is in the room with me, like, let's fucking go. That's great. So I can't complain. I'm happy that they're there in the first place. And if they want to spread the gospel through their cell phone, I won't complain about that either. Again, I'd rather everybody be there, present, but it is what it is. It can be helpful.
No thought behind this, no explanation. Quick 5 answers. And I'm not saying favorite, I'm saying top of mind, because it can never be favorite, only 5 because there are millions of them. Once we finish this conversation, if you want to listen to 5 other artists, I want to listen to A, B, C, D, E. Who would those 5 artists be? Just top of mind.
God, Jack White's been a big thing lately. Nick Cave's and the Bad Seeds has been a ton. Jesus, Esperanza Spalding is always on my rotation. God, this is really hard. Rufus Wainwright and Fiona Apple.
So, Johnny, the podcast is listened to throughout the world. As a final message, what would you like to say?
Thanks for everybody listening. I hope you check out my new album, Side Effects. And if you don't like it, just don't tell me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Celeb Savant. Please follow Barrett on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Celeb Savant. That's CelebSavant.